Hello YouTube, Bane666 here. So, it wasn't that long ago I put up a video with Steve Shives, and I wasn't planning on doing another one on Steve Shives for some time. But just after I published that video, I saw the video that you're about to watch, and I knew I had to do a response. Now, what makes this video different than my previous videos on Steve Shives is, I think Steve is right this time. Now, before you hit thumbs down or leave a nasty comment claiming that I've been brainwashed into becoming a social justice warrior, don't worry, there's method to my madness. Stick with this video, and by the end of it, you might actually agree with me. Anyway, take it away, Steve.
Number 4, new study illustrates how YouTube empowers the far right. Here's something that is either a fact so self-evident that it hardly requires mentioning, or a piece of hateful propaganda concocted by the left in order to assassinate the characters of some innocent and upstanding classical liberal intellectuals, depending on how big of a dipshit you are.
I wonder which one it is. Well, I guess we're just going to have to keep on watching, aren't we?
A recently published report by Rebecca Lewis for research firm Data and Society finds that YouTube hosts a network of influential personalities who promote people with right-wing ideologies ranging from more or less traditional conservatism to outright white supremacy.
Ah, yes, because everyone on that list is clearly somewhere on the spectrum between a traditional conservative or a white supremacist. Like Jeff Holiday, for example, very, very clearly a tradcon, if I've ever seen one. Right? Right, Steve?
And moreover, that YouTube's algorithms help to amplify these influencers and the guests they feature. The report tracks 65 influencers operating across 81 channels and notes how even people whose personal political views don't seem too extreme, relatively speaking, have routinely given their platforms to people who do have extremist views. For example, spineless panderer Dave Rubin, who often invites racists, misogynists, and professional trolls on his show and allows them to say whatever they want while he mostly smiles and nods in agreement. This has the effect of normalizing people with some truly dangerous ideas. People who seek to legitimize scientific racism, who warn about white genocide or the threat posed by forced diversity, who stir up hatred against people of color, immigrants, women, and other groups, and who relentlessly stoke the fear and outrage of their aggrieved white male viewers. And as I said, to most people from outside those target audiences who have been paying attention, all of this is obvious already. What the Data and Society report also establishes is how YouTube itself enables this to happen by allowing content creators who traffic in demagoguery and conspiracy theories to benefit from the same strategies used by more benign mainstream creators, like beauty vloggers or video essayists. Why does YouTube allow this? Because YouTube doesn't give a shit about content. It monetizes popularity and influence, and only cares about who and what is being popularized and what viewers are being influenced to believe and do when it's forced to. Even with changes to terms of service and attempts to increase enforcement of community guidelines these last couple of years, extremists, including open misogynists and white supremacists, and people like Rubin who promote and defend the extremists continue to thrive on this platform. That will only change if those of us who want it to change continue to talk about this problem here on YouTube and everywhere else, and demand that YouTube take responsibility for the fact that professional bigots and abusers use it to enrich themselves and disseminate their toxic, harmful rhetoric to the rest of the world.
Fuck the men's rights movement!
Now, at this point, some of you may be thinking, but Bane, I thought you said you agree with Steve, but so far, it seems like you're disagreeing with him, while others may be thinking Bane's lost his mind if he thinks the alternative influence report is a good report. And I do think it's a good report. I think it is a fucking fantastic report, as you will see by the end of this video. Like I said, a little bit of trust, and you'll see where I'm going with this. Now, this report came out about a month ago, and I'm sure you've seen many other YouTubers go through it in a lot of detail, so I'm not going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I do want to have a look at a couple of points which are relevant for the point I'm making in this video. So we'll look at them quickly. Let's start by having a look at the introduction. For a short time on January 4th, 2018, the most popular live stream video on YouTube was a broadcast dominated by white nationalists. More specifically, it was a stream by YouTubers Andy Warski and Jean-Francois facilitating a debate between a white nationalist and a libertarian. The debate topic was scientific racism, which they refer to as race realism, a contemporary incarnation of the long-standing claims that there are measurable scientific differences between races of humans. Arguing in favour of scientific racism was infamous white nationalist Richard Spencer, known for having popularised the term alt-right. Ostensibly on the other side was Carl Benjamin, a YouTuber who goes by the pseudonym Sargon of Akkad. During the broadcast, the debate became the #1 trending live video worldwide on YouTube, with over 10,000 active viewers. The archived version of the broadcast has been viewed an additional 475,000 times. The 4 participants carried out their debate via Google Hangouts, and the video lasted more than 4.5 hours. They were joined at various times by other YouTubers. Now, that is a very, very important point, which I will come back to in a little bit.
I've watched the whole thing, and it's been interesting. But I think one thing that's been lacking, certainly in terms of an opposition to the thoughts of Mr. Spencer and Mr. Woes, that seems like an odd way of putting it, but you get what I mean, would be the arguing around the edges of who's white and who's not. I mean, I think that's a perfectly legitimate question, but ultimately it doesn't get to the root of why it's just frankly a silly idea. They say, oh, that's not a reason not to have an ethno-state. Well, surely the reason not to have an ethno-state is that, I think most people don't want an ethno-state, otherwise we basically have an ethno-state. It's unworkable in practicality. It would have to be used. You'd have to use huge amounts of violence to bring it about. Peaceful ethnic cleansing doesn't happen. I'd like to see any examples of it ever actually having happened. It's just a stupid and unworkable idea. So these little peripheral ideas of who's white and who's not, I don't really.
Well, Kevin, we already dealt with this earlier, but Kevin, I'll ask you: is Uma Thurman white?
Sorry.
What do you think?
He's not the racial inquisitor here. You
white?
are. Can you define whether she is or not, please?
Sargon, be quiet. I'm asking Kevin.
No, you're the one asking him a load of questions, which you know.
How's that a load of questions? Sargon,
as soon as he asks it, you're going to say,
Sargon,
gotcha.
pipe down.
Gotcha.
Shut up. Sargon,
No.
Sargon, shut
Woes,
up.
it's
I'm
not going
asking
to work. Just
Kevin
say
a question.
it's
It's none of your business.
That's the merits of the argument, and you know what you're saying is a leading question. You know, you just have you think.
Well, I'll ask it a different way. Kevin, is Uma Thurman black?
That's no different at all.
But this is my point. Sargon. No, she's obviously not black, and I don't care. If she's a decent person and she wants to live in a
but it's not about whether you care or not.
The report goes on to say, influence is not created in a vacuum. It occurs within and propagates through social networks. Part of the way influencers build followings is by becoming nodes around which other networks of opinions and influences cluster. One of the most effective ways to network on YouTube is by referencing and including other people in video content. That's interesting. I wonder who's done that before. There's someone I'm trying to think of, but I can't quite remember his name. But he often includes other people in his content, including clips from the Richard Spencer debate that he took part in. What is his name? It's really on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it at the moment. I'm sure it will occur to me very, very soon. So basically what she did is she looked at a number of YouTubers and she saw who they referenced and who they talked about and who they had on as guests. And then she made connections between these people. Now, I think she did an amazing job. I think this is an outstanding report, and trust me what I'm saying, I'm in no way being sarcastic about that. I mean it. I think this is an amazing report and extremely well done, well researched. But unfortunately, it's not perfect. It's close. It's really, really close to perfect, but not quite there, because she wasn't inclusive enough. And we all know from listening to people like Steve Shives that being inclusive is the most important thing that you can be. Now, I'm sure the reason why the creator of this report wasn't as inclusive as she should have been is just she ran out of time or something like that. I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with cherry-picking data and having a political bias to begin with. That would be outrageous. I'm guessing she just ran out of time, and, you know, realistically, she couldn't look at everyone on YouTube, could she? So she had to narrow her field a bit. But, you know, I'm a really helpful guy. I like to help people out. And I figure the best way I can help her out is by expanding her work, right? And being more inclusive of other people. And the first person I think we should be more inclusive of, what's his name again? Oh, that's right, it's Kevin Logan. Because Kevin Logan took part in the debate with Richard Spencer.
The humans not.
It means that it has some form of legitimacy. I'm just curious, Kevin. I've never encountered your work before. Do you think that there should be any kind of restriction at all in immigration? Or do you think that we should have, you know, wherever capital flows, the humans should follow, or wherever human whims flow, they should go where they please?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you have to understand the reality of the world, and we have nation states, and so we have borders, and so I'm not for absolutely unlimited migration of whomever. But the idea that you're going to have to say, okay, well, this colour of people have to leave this land, especially in America, seems ridiculous, because you have a significant number of black people who, by and large, their ancestors didn't choose to go there; they were brought there by white people. And so to say now, oh, you now have to leave.
Do you think there's a genetic coherence to the British Isles?
And Veeh and Sargon and Millennial Woes. So we can connect, Kev, to all those people instantly. Now, some of you may be saying, but Bane, didn't Kevin disagree with Richard Spencer? Well, yeah, he did, just like Sargon and Veeh did. But the report tells us that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you hold different political views. It says just by talking to somebody, you are in fact promoting them. So Kevin Logan was in effect promoting Richard Spencer by disagreeing with him and basically, you know, calling him an idiot. That's a form of promotion now. So we need to put Kevin there, and we need to connect him to all these people, because we need to be more inclusive of people like Kevin. We don't want Kevin being left out. That would be wrong. Now that we've got Kevin there, we can add a few more people, like Christy Winters. Now you may be saying, I don't remember Christy Winters talking to Richard Spencer. And that's because she didn't. But she has talked to Sargon before, and she talks to Kevin on a regular basis. So that's two connections to Christy Winters. Christy Winters is now part of this graph. See how easy this is? And it's good being inclusive. I feel good that I'm being inclusive of these people. It really warms my heart. Now, I guess the next one on the list would have to be Chrisiosity, because, you know, she's done Hangouts with Kevin Logan and Christy Winters, and I just saw some video of her on stage with Roaming Millennial. So, you know, that's at least 3 connections there. And now that we've got Chrisiosity there, I want to add one final name. Now, I could go on all day being inclusive of other people. It's so easy, and it does make me feel good, trust me. But I can't make this video too long. But I would feel that I've let someone down if I didn't include someone very, very special. And that is one Steve Shives. Because Steve has done Hangouts with Christy Winters, Kevin Logan, and Chrisiosity. And we can trace Steve Shives' connection to Richard Spencer back through these people. I mean, it's like Steve Shives and Richard Spencer are really best friends. You can see the connection between these people. It's so clear and evident, I don't know how anyone could doubt it. Steve Shives is connected to Richard Spencer, and this report that Steve Shives himself promoted and said was a good report proves that. That is, using the same methods as this report used. Now, some of you may be saying, but Bain, maybe it's not a good report. Maybe it's cherry-picking information and leaving certain people out on purpose and exaggerating connections when there really aren't strong connections. Maybe it's biased as fuck, and it started with the conclusion and then only included that information which supported that conclusion. To you people who are making that argument, I have to ask you one question. That is, why do you hate women? Clearly you are a misogynist, and that's the only reason you're making that argument. And you probably hate black people and gay people as well, because, why else would you be making such an argument unless you're a terrible, terrible person? Luckily, Steve isn't one of those people, because Steve loves this report. The same report that proves that Steve is connected to Richard Spencer. In fact, it's almost like Steve is a Nazi, in a way, isn't it?
This has the effect of normalizing people with some truly dangerous ideas. Like me!
They're so closely connected, it's, I think we should start a hashtag to celebrate it. What about something like, Zig Heil Stevie? Or Steve Shives is a Nazi. I don't know which one I prefer. They both sound so good to me. So, Steve really has three options here. The first option is he could come out and say the report is a piece of shit, which, let's face it, he's not going to do. The second option is he could be a massive hypocrite and say that the methods to include the people he doesn't like are perfectly fine and reasonable, but when those same methods are applied to people he does like and agree with, then they're being biased and those methods aren't being used legitimately. But, we know Steve isn't a massive hypocrite. So that only leaves us the third option, which is Steve is a Nazi. I always had a suspicion, what's the old saying? The squeaky wheel wants the grease.
Hey folks, hope you got something out of this one. If you did, please click like and share the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not subbed already. And also, please, please, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one and like all the videos I make on this channel by supporting this channel with a monthly donation through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron for as little as $1 a month. And believe me, those $1 a month pledges really, really help me out. But if you can afford it, and you think I'm worth it, and you pledge at $5 a month or more, you get yourself a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5, just like these fine folks who are my newest $5 plus patrons. Joshua Elliott, thank you, Joshua. John Hibbler, thank you, John. Unholier Than Thou, thank you, Unholier Than Thou. Gregory A. Petro, thank you, Gregory. Lawrence Diamond, thank you, Lawrence. Nikki Harris, thank you, Nikki. Kira Leach, thank you, Kira, and Lee Chapman, thank you, Lee. Thanks to all of you for pledging. Thanks to all of you who are patrons at whatever level you're pledging. Thanks to all of you for watching, whether you're patrons or not. I appreciate all of your support in whatever form it takes, and I'll see you next time. fact that professional bigots and abusers use it to enrich themselves and disseminate their toxic, harmful rhetoric to the rest of the world. Like me!